Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we
Good.
can able to.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, uh, you know, for the labs and for the practice purpose, right? First, let's create our own labs inside our local system. You can see this is how I have created my lab setup, where I have installed the Linux operating system, called Linux operating system. This is my attacker system, and then I have also created some of the other target operating systems, guys. Okay, like you can take your plain operating system and make it vulnerable by installing some of the vulnerable softwares. Okay, identify that vulnerability and exploit it. Or you can also take, some of the intentionally created vulnerable operating systems to learn it. Okay, apart from this, maybe if you would like to go for the online labs also, you can go and explore the online labs, guys. Okay, we have something called Try Hack Me. So this is somewhere 500 per month, right? So you can go and take this kind of a premium labs and explore it, right? That's how you need to learn and upgrade, you know, apply the same skills in the real time. These are like mostly, kind of a real time, scenarios and real time labs only. And when it comes to using the paid tools, right? So we use them, the trial versions of those tools, and we'll learn the tools, guys. Okay, most of them are open source tools only, which we have, pre-installed in the Linux operating system. We are going to use those tools itself as a part of the learning. If something is required, right? Let's say there are vulnerability assessment tools when it comes to learning the infrastructure related scans, like vulnerability assessment scans. Let's say we have Nessus, or let's say we have Qualys, right? So what we do is these tools have the trial, version, or essentials. This is free. Okay, so we are going to use, uh, this kind of trial versions or community editions or essentials to learn the things, guys. But in the real time, of course, you will be provided with the professional or enterprise, version of the tool, which you can go and use it in the real time. Okay. Yeah, Kalyan.
Did you cover everything in a real-time scenario based, or you just provide only basic things?
See, this is practical course only, right? Uh, learn the penetration testing methodology. Okay, as a part of that, we'll start with the information gathering. Okay, vulnerability scanning, vulnerability life cycle. Okay, exploitation, post exploitation, right? So this is all networking part. Okay, once it is done, we'll be getting into the web application security, where we'll be covering the web application prerequisites, like how the web application architecture will look like. Okay, what is the HTTP protocol, request methods and response codes. And there also we will use the separate lab, right? I'll help you to set up that lab as well. The same pen testing methodology, whatever we have learned it, we are going to apply in the real time for identifying the various types of application related vulnerabilities from the OASP top 10, right? So we'll be learning all the OASP top 10 issues. Got it. So this is how I have created this course. So by following this course content and all, yeah, you will be able to start your career as a pen tester. You can take this course content, guys. Okay, if you haven't taken. So we are going to follow the same course content. If you follow the everyday sessions, you will also be provided the recordings and assignments to you, right? So you have to complete those assignments and upload the assignment related documents. Maybe if I want to show you how it looked like for the previous batch, right? Just a minute, okay? I'll show you. Uh, so once you guys have finalized your enrollments, right? So there will be a Google Classroom, invite which you will be getting it. So in that Google Classroom itself, every day you will be getting your assignments and also the slides. Okay, whatever I'm covering. So this is how it looked like. Let me share my screen again. Let's say if I take the last batch, right? Yeah, yeah. You can see, guys, all of these are basically the assignments. Okay, whatever um, I'm giving to them, right? So suppose let's say this is an assignment. So there are resources, right? So people will be going through these resources and completing the assignment, and these are all various types of slides, day to day sessions, which we'll be uploading over here. And apart from this, you will also be getting the recordings for the practice purpose, and there'll be WhatsApp group also which is created, right? Through which you can also ask if you would like to clarify some doubts. Okay, very clear.
How is openings as of now in cybersecurity uh, side
Yeah, openings are good,
and
man.
market wise?
Yeah, it is one of the emerging domain. There are a lot of openings are also there, right? Last time I think I have also shown you by directly navigating into the Google, by searching with the designation. You can also explore the same way, right? So maybe you can just go and search penetration testing jobs in India, Bangalore or Hyderabad. You will see, you know, a lot of openings, guys.
How many years we climb to after this course, like 1 year, 2 years, like that?
So
Once course is done,
two to three
practicing.
years, guys. 2 to 3 years, right?
These are question my end.
Yeah. Yeah, guys. Any other questions? Cool. Maybe if you don't have any questions, right, we can get started. Um, so, like today, the plan is to cover a few basic things, right? We'll start with the we'll start with learning the basic fundamental terminologies, guys. Right? We'll start with the learning a few basic fundamental terminologies. So, and also I'll help you to set up the lab in your local system itself. Right? So, okay, yeah. So let's get started. Learning some of the basics of cybersecurity, right, and information security. So first, understand what is this information security, right? Like what happens here is information security. Of course, in the name itself, it is there, right? Securing the sensitive information. So mostly we see this information in three different stages, right? It could be stored somewhere. We call it as in rest. Um, and when you are accessing it, it is in transit, and when you're using it, it is in process, right? So information security is the practice of protecting the sensitive information and the systems that store, process, and transmit it. So this protection is aimed to prevent the unauthorized access, use, disclosure, disruption, modification, and destruction of the data. Right? As a information security person, our responsibility is to secure the information from the unauthorized access, unauthorized use, unauthorized disclosure, disruption, modification, and destruction of the data. Right? So we have, you know, majorly three different, I can say, principles. Okay. So we also call this as a CIA Triad or information security, information security, what we say, triad. Okay. So information security triangle, right? So what is this thing, right? See, as a security person, our responsibility is to provide the confidentiality, integrity, and availability, okay, uh, for the data that we are protecting, right? So what is this confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? Let's learn it. These three, uh, terminologies first. So what is confidentiality? Okay. See, confidentiality, in a sense, ensuring that the sensitive information is only accessible by authorized people. For an example, a bank employee should be able to see your bank details, right? So, like maybe if I want to give you some other example, right? Let's take an example. Let's say you have some sensitive information stored, okay, somewhere. Maybe let's take an example of an organization where various people are working for that organization for the different projects. Right? Let's say you are targeted to one project, uh, and if you can able to access someone else project information, okay, that is unauthorized access. Right? There is no proper confidentiality. Correct? So we have to make sure that authorized people, okay, should have access to the sensitive information, right? And we should stop this kind of a uh, unauthorized access related issues, right? Only the resources what you have access to, you should be able to access, okay? But the resources what you don't have access to, if in case if you are accessing it, okay, there is no confidentiality, guys, right? So let's say if you can able to see someone else bank account details by logging in with your account, what happens? There is no confidentiality, right? Yeah. So confidentiality ensures that the sensitive information is only accessed by the authorized people, right? And what is the integrity, right? So what is integrity? Integrity, making sure that the information remains accurate and unchanged unless altered by the authorized persons. This means that the information you see and use it is reliable and correct, right? Let's say you have some very confidential information, okay, stored somewhere. And hacker, what he's doing is somehow he got the unauthorized access to your data, and he also modified that. Okay, like he altered it, right? So what happened when he alters that data? The complete information is tampered, right? It is not correct or reliable. Even if you send it to someone, okay, it has a different um, you know a response for it, correct? So what we do, is we make sure that whatever the sensitive information is there, it is not altered or changed by the unauthorized people, right? Suppose if I want to give some example, right? See, for an example, um, you're texting, guys. Okay, you're texting, let's say, with your friends or someone. So you are sending a message, okay, to your friend, saying that, hey, um, you know, I am hired for X company, right? This is your confidential information. And now let's say this is something which you are sending it through internet. So internet is what? It is not secure, right? It is unsecured communication channel. Any sort of attacks can be possible, right? So what hacker has done, he got the access to your communication, and now he is modifying this, okay, like this. The complete message is now different, right? This has happened because a hacker got a chance to modify the sensitive information, right? And hacker is the unauthorized person over here, and then this data is now not correct, but the message will be conveyed to your friend in this way itself, right? So these kind of this is the one of the example, guys, I can say for the integrity, right? So except you or authorized persons, okay, should not have an access to modify, any confidential information. Got it? So simply what I have done, I have just replaced this hired to fired, right? It is modified now, right? Let's say someone is maybe got a chance to modify your profile information. Let's say your address. What happens? That is also comes under the integrity failures only, right? All your couriers, okay, will deliver to their address, right? And we have availability. So whatever the sensitive information is there, okay, that should be available to those who need them whenever they need them. Whenever they wanted to access the sensitive information or resources, okay, so they should be able to access them. If someone like an unauthorized hacker, maybe able to delete it. Let's say if he got an access to delete that information, so it will not be available, right? It can lead to again availability issues. So as an information security consultant or information security professional, our responsibility is to provide the confidentiality, so that what happens, the sensitive information is only accessible to the authorized people, and no one except the authorized people will not have an access to modify anything or delete anything. Right. Understand, guys, these three terminologies: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Right. Suppose, let's say, um, okay, if you want to maybe take an example and explain about this availability, right? Let's say you created your own website and you're doing business with it, and hackers, they have done some hack, okay, and they deleted all your files from the server, so the website will not be available and you cannot do your business through the website, right? That creates the availability related issues. Got my point, right? So yeah, even when we are identifying and exploiting any vulnerabilities also, we'll consider these three key aspects, and according to this only we will also decide the severity of the vulnerabilities, guys. You will learn that in the upcoming sessions, but yeah, this is the important things I can say. Are you clear with this confidentiality, integrity, and availability?
Sorry, here I have one question.
Hmm.
Suppose I have some confidentiality data.
Hmm.
How could I know the like hacker hacking my information, like my confidential data? Is there any alerts coming to hacking the system or like that?
See, depends where you're saving the data and what kind of access controls or authorizations you have, right? So, for an example, let's say you have your data maybe in the laptop. Okay, I'm just taking an example, right? So, if your laptop is, let's say, protected with a very strong password, and the password is only only you're only the person who knows the password, right? So only you can able to access the sensitive information, correct? Maybe if you're also, let's say, if you're not using the password at all, if someone has a physical access to your laptop, of course, there is a chance that they can use it. That is a one case. Or let's say if you're having certain vulnerabilities in your system and connecting your system to the internet or public Wi-Fi, who knows through which they can also enter into your system and grab all your confidential information, right? There are various ways, guys, I can say, through which this kind of attacks happens, which is called as a gaining the unauthorized access, is basically hacking, right? So hacker will try to attempt to break into the system or get into the system to access the sensitive information or delete and modify the sensitive information, okay, using various ways. So as a security person, we apply the security best practices to stop him in each layer. Got my point, right? So what we do, for an example, right, in this scenario, laptop scenario, right? So if you're connecting to maybe a public Wi-Fi, you should use VPN, or to stop all the exploitation related issues, like you should use latest version of the operating system, and you have to configure your firewall properly, right? And then the data what is stored in your operating system, right? We encourage you to encrypt it using some kind of a hardware, hard disk encryption softwares like BitLocker, kind of a thing, right? So you got my point. So there are a lot of security controls which I have discussed now, right? So depending on what sort of a data it is, where it is stored, the security practices comes into the picture. Yeah, Kalyan.
Yeah, got it. if it is alone, if it is not network, if I am not using any any Wi-Fi, is it possible to hack my system?
No, until unless if they have the physical access, they cannot do it, right? If it is not connected to internet, how can they reach you? How can they probe you, right? Either they should have the physical access. That's it.
Okay.
Right? Suppose let's say have your physical access to a laptop. Let's say even if you have the very strong password also, what I'll do, I'll steal your devices which has a confidential data, and I'll plug out your hard disk and I'll connect it to the different laptop. Then I can able to read all your confidential data, right? Or maybe I can load your
Case
system.
only. Okay, in that case only they will hack my data. Until
No,
unless it's not possible.
even though we can implement the security on top of it, right? If we do the strong encryptions for your hard disk, even if they do it, if they connect your hard disk to different laptop and try to retrieve it, also they won't get it. Okay, you will learn them. Okay, I know it is very new and it takes some time to connect all your dots, right? So yeah, it's good that bringing up your questions and trying to clarify and sync up with this. Yep. Yeah, guys. And now let's get started with some of the fundamental terminologies, guys. So we'll start with the assets. Okay, we'll start with the assets. So if you remember the very first class, okay, we what I said is basically, as a security person, our response. I mean, when we are getting into the pen testing, okay, or VAPT domain, right, or in cybersecurity domain. So our responsibility is to protect all the assets, okay, which has some kind of a worth in it or value in it. Okay, when I say worth and value, it could be some data or some programs also, right? So if when I say assets, guys, assets are basically it could be any data or device or other component of the environment that supports the information related activities. Even an employee is also asset for an organization, right? So simply you need to remember that when I say assets, okay, it could be anything which has some kind of a value in it. Okay, it could be data, program, a physical device like routers, switches, or any other component of that environment that supports the information security related activities, right? So all these are basically called as a assets, right? So our responsibility also is to protect all the assets of an organization, right? Okay, from where? Right, we have some assets. Okay, we have to protect all these assets from where? From the threats. Okay, what is a threat? A threat is basically a potential cause of an unwanted incident. Okay, like for an example, hackers, right? So, of course, see, there are a lot of various types of threats, guys. Okay, noun threats, unknown threats, internal threats, external threats, natural threats, right? So, threat is basically what? A potential cause of an unwanted incident which may result in harm to a system or an organization. Right? We have phishing, malwares, natural disasters, or maybe let's say you have hired an employee who is not having the proper skills to manage the systems or a server, and if you're giving the complete access to him, okay, let's say if he's going and deleting everything, that is also a threat, right? Okay, you are giving unrestricted access to an employee who is maybe not capable of doing it, or maybe hacker, right? So all these are basically threats, right? What happens is when you have an asset, okay, so these kind of threats, okay, what I told, may harm the system or an organization, right? Simply you can remember that when someone says threat, right, it could be like a potential cause of an unwanted incident which may result in harm of a system. Let's say losing the data, shutting down the system, right, corrupting the uh, some of the devices, right. These are all the various types of incident which you may get to see, okay, for these various types of threats, right. Okay. And vulnerability is also one of the threat, guys. Okay, like running a system or any software or hardware which has some kind of a weakness in it, okay, is basically called as a vulnerability, right. Like hackers will try to identify these vulnerabilities only to break into the system, right. In this scenario, what you need to understand is hacker is a threat, vulnerability is a weakness, right. So what he is doing, he is exploiting these vulnerabilities to getting into the system, which is basically again an asset, right. Are you clear with this? Asset, threat, vulnerability. Are you clear with these three terminologies? This is very, very essential, guys, because in upcoming sessions we are going to use this terminologies a lot. Even in the interview point of view, also, someone may ask you this kind of uh, basic terminologies to check your knowledge, right? So a weakness or vulnerability could be anything. Again, it could be, let's say, an unpatched software, using a weak passwords, right, opening certain unnecessary ports, right. So all of these are basically vulnerabilities examples. Okay. Yeah. And then we have exploit. So what is exploit? So when you have a vulnerability and when you would like to take the advantage over this vulnerability to um, you know maybe steal some data, you need an exploit. So exploit is a piece of software or a set of commands or a methodology that hackers or attackers can use it to take the advantage over the vulnerability. Okay, when you have a vulnerability, of course, okay, we have a vulnerability, but how do you take the advantage over that vulnerability is with the help of the exploit, guys. So when I say exploit, it could be a software or a set of commands or a methodology that hackers use it to take the advantage of the vulnerability. So let's say SQL injection, okay, or buffer overflow exploits. Last time, in the first session, I have shown you there is a VSFTPD 2.3.4 service that I have identified, which has some exploit, which has some vulnerability in it, and then I have used Metasploit to exploit that vulnerability. There was a backdoor, okay, so we have executed the exploit using the Metasploit to enter into the VSFTPD server through the backdoor, right? Yeah, and risk, right? So having a vulnerability in a system, okay, which could be exploited by the threat is called as a risk. Okay, so risk equal to, I can say, vulnerability into threat. Okay, so risk is basically potential for loss. Okay, the potential for loss or damage when the threat exploits the vulnerability, right? In the last example, you said uh, like we have some confidential information, let's say in the laptop, right? So how that can be stolen or modified, right? If in case if a system has some vulnerability, if the hacker is exploiting it, they can steal your confidential information. So that is the risk for you, right? So yeah, a risk is equal to vulnerability into threat, guys. Okay, a potential loss or a damage when the threat exploits the vulnerability. It could be losing all your data, which can maybe leads to financial losses. Let's say if they are keeping your servers down, what happen? It can leads to availability issues, and you know the servers will not work. So it can leads to financial losses, or it could be for create a reputational damage as well, right? When someone says, let's say this company got hacked, no one will try to or do the business with you, or maybe your shares will go down, right? So a lot of there are various types of a risk, right? Got it. So this is about the risk. An attack vector. So attack vector is basically, I can say, a path or a method used by an attackers to access or penetrate uh, a system, guys. Like maybe let's say in again, let's go to the previous example, right? So the confidential information of which I am trying to access it from your system with the physical access. Okay, so here the attack vector is physical. Let's say if you're connecting the same system or a server to a network through which I am again attacking on your system. So attack vector is network. So basically attack vector means the method or a path used by an attacker to access or penetrate the system, guys. It could be via phishing email, or with the malicious website, or some link, or with the USB devices, or with the physical access, or with the network. Okay, so all these are basically attack vectors, which the attackers are using it to penetrate into the system, right? And once the successful attack happens, okay, of course it can leads to I mean we call it as an incident, right? So an event that compromises the confidentiality, integrity, availability of an information is called as a event. Got my point? Let's say hacker now penetrated your system and he took all your information. Yeah, that is what basically called as a incident, right? Because he is compromising your confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the information. So it could be again data breach or some kind of a ransomware infection. Okay, bringing down the network servers. Okay, all of this comes under the incidents, guys. Okay, are you clear with this terminologies, guys? Yeah, guys, if you have any questions, right, you can ask me. So if you guys are not going to respond or not give the acknowledgement, I'll not get to know. I want you to interact more, discuss more, learn it in a very easiest way, right? The more you interact, even I can also give you more examples, and I can also teach you with some kind of other alternative with some other alternative examples, right? So I want you guys to interact more and learn more. Do you guys understand Telugu, all of you, or anyone is from the other states who don't know the Telugu?
Able
Yeah,
to
guys.
understand.
Okay, right? Yeah. Now let's discuss about mitigation. So when you have some vulnerability, right? So there is a possibility of exploiting those vulnerabilities called as a likelihood. So to reduce that impact or a likelihood, okay, threat exploiting a vulnerability, what we need to apply, we need to apply the patches, right? We need to implement some kind of a security policies, or maybe we need to deploy the firewall. So all of these are basically mitigations. Okay, mitigations are basically I can say fix. right? Let's say you have some software which has certain vulnerabilities in it, so that can be exploited by the hackers, right? To stop that vulnerability exploitation, right, we have to implement the, or we have to apply the patches and fixes. That's what we call it as a mitigation, guys, right? And every vulnerability, right, when you take an example of any vulnerability, I mean, there are a lot of vulnerabilities, right? Every day, the security professionals or hackers are, identifying, various vulnerabilities, and how do we identify the vulnerabilities, right? See, actually, we have vulnerability databases, guys. For an example, if I take you to the NVD, which is a national, which is national vulnerability database, which is maintained by the US government. Okay, this is for vulnerability management, data. So all the vulnerabilities which are reported will be saved over here. It's like a repository of all the vulnerabilities, guys, right? So every vulnerability will have something called as a CVE number. Okay, every vulnerability will have something called as a what? CVE number. Let's say someone has identified a cross-site scripting vulnerability in the so and so version. Okay, Ganglia Web version 3.73 to 3.75. Okay, so what is this vulnerability? It's a cross-site scripting vulnerability, right? But this cross-site scripting vulnerability is affected in this particular product, okay, which is running in between this version, okay, and this is the file which is affected in it, okay. So the parameter G is vulnerable, okay, that's fine, but you can see this vulnerability has a unique CVE for it. Maybe if I copy this CVE and Google it, right, only I'll be able to see the results of that particular vulnerability. So CVE is what? It is the unique for every vulnerability. We call it as a common vulnerability exposure, right? So let's say you have a lot of vulnerabilities. Okay, let's say you're running a scan on, let's say, infrastructure. You have identified hundreds of thousands of vulnerabilities. So every vulnerability will have a CVE. Okay, and the CVE will look like this: CVE and the year when it is reported, and this is the unique number, right? If you look into the current example, right, you have 2024, which is recently reported. Understand? And every vulnerability will also have a CVSS score. You can see this is the CVSS score here, which indicates the severity of the vulnerability, guys. Okay, so if you open the CVSS score of any issue, the CVSS score again will be calculated, depending on this impact matrix. What is this impact matrix? How the confidentiality impacts, integrity impacts, and availability impacts. So this is basically a what cross-site scripting attack. Okay, we have already seen that, right? So it's basically a cross-site scripting attack. So that cross-site scripting attack can be exploited via network, right? Attack vector is what? Network. Just now we have learned it, right? What is attack vector? See, attack vector is a method or a path used by the attackers to access or penetrate into the system. So to exploit this vulnerability, I mean, he'll be able to exploit it using a network. And how complex it is to execute this attack? Okay, low complex. It is not so difficult, I can say, right? And does he require any privileges to exploit this attack? I think this is required some privileges. I think this cross-site scripting which he identified is after authentication. Okay, so he added low-level privileges, and user interaction is required or not. Of course, the user interaction is required because I have also explained you cross-site scripting issue in the demo 3, where we need to send the injected malicious link to the victim. When they clicks on it, the attack is going to execute it. Correct. So user interaction is required. I mean, depending on the exploitation of the vulnerability, you need to give all of this, okay, exploitability matrix to generate the CVSS code, guys. Okay. So of course, the tools which we use it defaultly, they will also generate this, exploitability matrix. But of course, as a hacker, you should also be knowing it how this can be calculated manually. Okay, I'm just giving you high level, guys. By giving all this base core information, okay, about the exploitability matrix, um, and the impact, you will be able to generate the CVSS score, guys. So CVSS score is what? It's basically severity score. Depending on this severity, we can take the action on that particular vulnerability, right? If the more severity is there, right? This is how the CVSS score uh, system will look like. Okay, it starts from, yeah. So it starts from, if anything which scores in between 9 to 10 is critical, 7 to 8.9 is high, 4 to 6.9 is medium, and 0.1 to 3.9 is low. Right. So this is how the CVSS ratings uh, will be divided as per the range. So after doing this CVSS score calculation, okay, by giving all these details, you will be able to generate the score over here. Let's say this is all high. Okay, you can see it went to 9. Right. Of course, for the cross-site scripting only, they can redirect the user and access the confidential information. So that is low only, until unless if it is happening on the admin user. So it is 5.4. So if it is 5.4, which falls under here, medium, right? That's the reason if you look into this issue, right, the CVSS score is medium, right? You can, oh, sorry. See, it is medium, 5.4, right? So CVSS score, okay, CV is basically what? It's a unique for every vulnerability, which is common vulnerability exposure. CVSS score is which indicates the vulnerability severity. According to that, we can take the action on it. Because when you identified some issues, right? So our responsibility is to fix it, right? So which one to fix it when you have hundreds of vulnerabilities? We will try to fix the issues which has more CVSS score, so that the risk will be coming down, right? When I say risk, what? Possibility of exploitation, which may cause some kind of a potential damage, right? So when you identify the vulnerabilities in the organization, okay, and when you fix them by applying the mitigations, what happens? The CVSS score will come down, right? That's where you can, okay, reduce the risk. Understand? So this is all about the basic terminologies, guys, for the today's session. So tomorrow I'll show you how to set up the lab, and we'll start with the networking basics, guys. Right? First we'll complete the networking basics. Okay, we'll complete the Linux basics. Then we'll start with the penetration testing methodology. We'll learn it in a practical way. In each and every phase, what we do it, right? And then we'll apply this penetration testing on the network, okay, to learn how to perform the infrastructure, vulnerability assessments, and how to perform the web application related vulnerability assessments, right? Manual and also using a automated tools. We do it, guys. So this is what the plan. So yeah, I'm done for the today, guys. I'll yeah I'll take if in case if you have any questions. Yeah, guys, you can ask your questions and clarify if you have any.
Sai, how can you contact you in person?
So as of now, you can get in touch with Manju. Okay, she is a coordinator. She can help you to connect with me. Okay, but once the batch is confirmed, right? So
Okay,
there will be a WhatsApp group which is created for us to communicate.
okay.
Yeah,
So what is the duration of this course? At
yeah.
what
It
extent we
goes.
will get this support?
See, this course is going to be about a 2 months course. Okay, around 40 to 45 sessions you will be having it, right? Uh, so yeah, including holidays and all, it will go to 2 months, guys, right? So every day you will have a 1 hour session on the same time, and along with that, I'll also be giving the assessment, okay, over the Google Classroom. So you have to follow those assessments and you need to complete, right? Yeah.
So how many days we need to get support
Which support you're talking about?
regarding with that lab access, right? If you have any doubts or queries,
Yeah,
how can you reach out to you?
you can contact anytime over the same WhatsApp group. I'll be available. I'm not going to exit from it.
Okay. So you told, right, you will train under some projects, right? So the
Hmm.
projects could be shown in our resume for that interview.
See, they're all, those are all demo projects, guys. You can show your example
Okay,
by telling them that, uh, you know, by telling them that, I have this exposure. I have done this certifications. Okay, I've gone through this trainings. I have done this projects also. You can tell them. Okay, because no one
okay,
is going to ask you, show me the projects or tell me the projects what you have done, because it's all security projects, right? There'll be NDA, okay, between you and the company where you are working. Okay, you should not disclose the project names until unless if you
okay.
have the permission. So you
But we
you
need to
learn
showcase our
acquire
skills.
all of these skills. Okay, you learn acquire all of
Okay,
these skills, and you can mention it, saying that okay, I have done a few projects for application, a few projects for network. I know this tool. Okay, so you can explain them, and when they ask the question, of course, they'll check right what extent you have the knowledge.
okay. So one more question, Sai.
Yeah.
So, so after training all this knowledge, and when we move to the other organization, you are basically new to this area, right? So getting training and working in organization and real time, it's very different, right? So in the real
No,
time,
it won't be any different. You don't think like that. Okay, I'm already a security person, right? Why I'm going to only teach you the theoretical part to you, right? Always, the topics which I'm going to pick up and train you, right? I'll train you by connecting with the real-time examples only. There is nothing like, uh, here we are learning
okay.
different, there it is different. It's all same.
So if you get like any doubts or any like you will help, right, during that
Yes, yes,
other company.
yes, yes,
So
yes, yes. So I encourage
because
you
you
to
basically
complete all. Yeah, I encourage you, all of you, to complete all the assessments on the regular
Mhm.
basis and follow me. Okay, I don't think so. You will have some difficulty. Directly, you can apply these skills on the real time.
Okay,
Okay, I'll also give you all the resources to you. You just need to follow those resources once you complete your classes and do the practicals and come up with your questions. Then and there, I'll clarify you the things and I'll connect your dots. Okay, then yeah,
okay, Sai.
yeah,
So what is the timings of this course? Like morning only, right?
yeah, 8 to 9.
Is it possible to change timings to afternoon or evening?
No, because I have my work, right? So yeah, it is not possible. So this is a fixed time as of now.
Okay, okay, sir.
Yeah. If you miss any sessions, they'll be recorded, provided to you. But of course, you have to join, on time early.
Thanks, sir. Got it.